Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I was thinking about this particular one for a while, and I didn't necessarily know how to articulate it. And I think I've articulated it before. I just want to nail it strongly because I kind of want to make a point. You know, there is such a thing as coming into your own. Meaning, as human beings, we don't necessarily have this full knowledge of things. Our thinking through things, like seeing things in advance, often off slightly. Meaning, when we get to that particular point that we envision, it's not usually what we thought or what we felt like. The Democratic Party and the progressives, leftists, have had this tenuous agreement. Now, this idea that labor, the poor, 99% and everything else was going to interact with the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party was going to represent the interests of the 99%. That agreement fell apart in 1992 when Bill Clinton took office. Bill Clinton was the first Democrat to outraise a Republican. And when he got in office, he did one right-wing thing after the next. Whether it was a welfare bill, whether it was signing NAFTA, which essentially stuck a knife in the back of workers. Bill Clinton turned around, mind you, deregulation of Wall Street. Bill Clinton looked at labor and said, you have nowhere else to go. You have nowhere else to go. Those other people that are sitting across the aisle are batshit crazy, they're terrifying, and they will come after you. You better be appreciative of my apathy. And for the most part, that's been the agreement. Progressives were told to shut up, sit down. We're the adults in the room. We're the ones who know how to win, etc., etc. To some degree, the argument goes after the idea of the person's, I guess, good sense. This idea that, yes, they're right, Republicans are batshit crazy. And so, okay, I'll deal with the Democrat. He's not necessarily going to be what I want, but he's not necessarily batshit crazy. He's not going to be punitive in the way that he goes after me. Now, here's the problem. Fear has led us astray. Meaning, at which point did it become where the vote had nothing to do with who we wanted, but had everything to do with who we were terrified of? And when you have a country that literally continuously votes for who they're terrified of, the person who's in that office gets somewhat of a free pass. Meaning, say, for example, Hillary Clinton won this election. Hillary Clinton privatizes Social Security. Hillary Clinton turns around, puts a missile defense shield to Syria, shoots down a Russian jet, and puts the United States and Russia in this kind of tense nuclear conflict. Say for the moment that she turns around and passes the TPP, saying, hey, I made some changes. Trust me, I'm Hillary Clinton. So I'm passing it now. I've alleviated your concerns. Trust me. In 2020, she's up against Ted Cruz. Do the people like Youre and, you know, Sam Cedar and some of these other guys, do these guys come on their radio show and say, hey, Ted Cruz is a fucking maniac? I understand Hillary Clinton did all this stuff, but once again, you need to vote for Hillary Clinton. Would that be the argument? I'm making a case that that probably will be the argument because that was the argument that they used with Donald Trump. We are supposed to be the conscience of this nation. And we voted completely complicit for one right-wing candidate after the next, completely abdicating our responsibility to be the actual conscience of this nation out of fear. Out of fear. Fear of the other. Fear of what the Republicans do, giving the Democrats a complete pass in those things. I'm saying that needs to stop. I'm saying right off the bat, that needs to stop. Before anything else is chosen, that needs to stop. If you're going to be completely complicit, and if your vote for the most part is just a canned item, what's the point of the vote in the first place? What is the philosophical basis of people voting? What is this idea of representative government? Do you believe that the candidate is representing you in this case? Now, I say this to say, and to some degree this is aimed at progressives. I would argue this is aimed at leftists, and I would argue this is aimed at Democrats and some independents. Do you believe that the candidate is representing your interests, or are you voting out of some kind of cultural or just out of absolute terror of what the right is going to do in that office? You have a right wing. You have the worst case scenario in that office right now. Now, you have a chance to reorganize what the Democratic Party's priorities are in a way that could never have been done if Hillary Clinton was in that office for the next 4 or 8 years. What are you going to do? Do you believe that just automatically giving your vote to the Democratic candidate in any way is going to get the country into a better place? Now, and what I mean by better place, let me define my terms. The left needs to understand something. It needs to come to reality for something. Digging around the edges in regards to these small, minute changes. I'm going to change the tax code. I'm going to put in healthcare. I'm going to do college. The problems that you're confronted with as a society and as a globe are far larger than the capacity of just giving somebody college or giving somebody healthcare. You have global cataclysmic issues that are facing you. Take out the globe for the moment. Take out climate. Take out all that stuff. Take out the environmental degradation that's taking place based on the way we ourselves are interacting with this world. That by itself is a game ender. That's a game ender. None of this is real. Ultimately, the game space that you yourself are existing in as a capitalistic model, that is not real. That is a conception. That is pure conception. That is man-made. That is not made by God. That is not made by any kind of ethereal being that put this into place and is like, this shall always be. It can change. The reason why I'm making this point, nailing it down that can change, is because you're not going to have a choice but for it to change. The challenges that you're going to be presented with, the challenges that we are currently presented with, that we are completely ignoring, cannot be solved in the way that the left is talking about solving them. You have global cataclysmic climate change, and I'm talking to the left on this because the left, for the most part, believes in the science of it. What in your capitalistic model solves that issue? What in you tweaking the tax code solves that issue? The temperature has already increased. Some scientists already said, kiss your ass goodbye. We're already beyond the pale. The only thing we can do is try to make things less bad. What in your playbook deals with that? How do you deal with it? How do you deal with it? You need a more radical vision in regards to dealing with these issues. I understand the politics of it can be tough, but also you have a real war reality that you yourself have to deal with in regards to what the left is being confronted with. The right doesn't care about this stuff. The right just wants tax cuts, and the right just want to give more money to the plutocrats. I'm talking about the left here. What about the societal collapse? What about this thing with people losing jobs, not because they've done anything wrong, but just because of the technological advancements that take place that gets rid of one job after the next? What are you going to do with the million of taxi cab drivers when they lose their jobs because of automated cars within 10 years? What are you going to do with the cashiers in these stores who lose their jobs because of the automation that's taking place right now with regards to how people go into stores and leave those stores without necessarily needing a cashier? Half of the jobs in this country are service jobs. What are you going to do when those jobs also start bleeding away? What are you going to do? One job after the next. Do you realize that like 90% of the jobs that we do right now can be potentially automated within the next 10, 20, 30 years? The right doesn't care. The right wants a free fall. They just want more taxes. Do you honestly believe that both of these issues, and I haven't gotten into the number of the extinction events, 40% of the extinctions taking place within the last 40 years. Well, sperm count of men going down in the West by 40%. Plastic in our oceans. I heard once that the more plastic in our oceans by 2030 than fish. We're doing extraordinarily bad things to this world. And do you honestly believe that that would not adversely affect human beings? Do you believe that this planet is real? Human beings are real, but human beings are not separate and distinct from the planet to which we exist on, and we only have one. As the planet goes, so shall we. I bring this dire forecast up for a point. If you're the left and you're looking at this world from the standpoint of what are the problems that we need to solve because we believe in progress, and seeing that we are the conscience of this nation and we're vested with the responsibility, whether we want to or not, of dealing with the societal issues as they come up, because again, we're the conscience of this nation. We're the ones that actually care. Do you believe the Democratic Party is a vehicle for it? That's the point. That's the point I'm trying to make. Do you believe that the Democratic Party is a vehicle for actual change? Now, if you believe that answer exists about actual radical change, not dicking around with the tax code, not saying, okay, we're going to find a way to get health care, absolutely radical change to actually deal with the problems that are addressing us. Because if you're not going to deal with the problems that are addressing us, what's the point? What's the point? If you're going to be the left, be the left. If you're going to be the conscience of this nation, be the conscience of this nation. Actually come up with solutions to the problem that are addressing us, and not dicking around the edges with the tax code and the healthcare. I understand those things are nice. Those things are good. Those things should be in our society, just from a base level of these are the things that are in our society because we care about the people, and the people in our society have value. We want to espouse that value based into the laws that we have. But certainly you understand there are more radical problems that need to be dealt with. There's a larger issue than just the tax code. That's what I'm getting at. And is the left prepared to be more, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say radical, but, and radical may be the word for it in comparison to what these guys are now. It's not enough. It's 2 points. Your change is not going to take place in the Democratic Party. I don't think it is. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't support the candidates who you yourself believe in. I'm just making this point that if your vote is completely complicit, meaning it doesn't matter what they do when they get in that office, they can do whatever they want. They can shift the party further and further to the right, and you're still giving them your vote because you're terrified of the other guy. What does that get you? What does it get you? And if you're the left and you believe in science, then you also believe that we're going to hit a rock, that there's an asteroid that's about to hit the planet. And it's not just from this environmental thing. This is also from the social issues inherent to capitalism, the contradictions that are built into it, that we ourselves are hitting our head on now with the amount of unemployment in our society, or poverty, I should say, in our society. It's time to grow up. And I mean this from the standpoint of being willing to say, no, my vote is not complicit. The fundamentals of voting goes with this idea, particularly if you're talking about a representative government. I'd argue it's in the goddamn name of representative government. You represent my interests, you get my vote. Voting is not a cultural thing. I don't do it because it's fun. I don't do it just because a guy has a D or R beside his name. I do it because that guy is going to be in that office, and I full well fundamentally believe that that guy is going to represent my interests. If I do not believe that guy is going to represent my interests, I don't vote for him because I'm terrified of the other guy. That gives him a blank pass not to represent my interests. If that makes sense. I'm not voting for Bob because of Bob. I'm voting for Bob because I'm terrified of Tim. Now, because I'm terrified of Tim, I've just given Bob a free pass in that office because I am voting for Bob, not because of Bob. Bill Clinton, when he passed NAFTA, when he passed that crime bill, when he deregulated Wall Street, Republicans wouldn't have been able to get that through. The fact that he was a Democrat allowed him to essentially a certain amount of credibility of, I can slide this through. I'm not necessarily going to get the scrutiny that I would get if I was a Republican because I'm a Democrat. If a Democrat is doing it, I guess it's okay. It wasn't okay. It was an immense betrayal. All of it. All of it. Tell me something. Is your power as leftists, as progressives, as independents, as wayward Democrats, is it expressed when you're dealing with a particular candidate, when you acknowledge that, no, I don't want the Republican in that office, but by the same token, I'm not giving you a free pass to do whatever you want, meaning you will be held accountable, even if that means I choose neither. Neither is an option. If that means the Republican win, God damn it, that's a sad day, but at the very least, I'm not going to be complicit in you taking that office, being able to do whatever you want. Your power in this as a voter, your power in this as an individual in this country, your power in this as an American is being willing to say no. It's being willing to say no. No is a goddamn revolutionary thing where you're talking about people who are being complicit in voting year after year after year and allowing that party to shift to the right year after year after year. If we are the conscience of this nation, we've let this nation down out of fear. It's time to grow up. Face your monsters. There is no passive way out. There is no way, there is no magical door where you're just going to automatically change the party and the world is going to be rainbows and unicorns. And like Hillary Clinton said, everybody gets a pony and you're changing the Democratic Party. They've purged your members. One of the people who were president just came out and said you were being cheated. And yes, I own up to the fact that we cheated you. I know I was lying the entire time saying that everything was okay, but yes, I need to hock a book. So yes, I'm going to say that it was rigged against you. I'm going to say the most obvious secret in the history of secrets, in the history of this universe, on any planet. Wag their finger at us. It was perfectly clear when he purged all those voters from New York, hundreds of thousands, against federal and state law, mind you. It was perfectly clear when they stole Nevada in front of everybody and then lied saying that they were throwing chairs, and Deborah Wasserman-Schultz came out saying, yeah, this is a fair contest. I don't know what Bernie Sanders people are upset about. When they were shutting down polling locations, when you can look at WikiLeaks and you can see the things that were going on behind the scenes. They lied for over a year. And right now, Unity Commission. We're united. 20 million people leaving the party. We're united. We're completely united. Don't believe your lying goddamn eyes. Believe us. Believe us. We're telling you the truth. At which point do you take the hint? They're just not into you. They want your vote, but they want you to shut the fuck up otherwise. When do you grow up and just say no? I choose not. I choose neither if I need to. You're either going to represent my interests or you're not going to get my vote. You're not going to get my vote because I'm scared of the boogeyman. I'm scared of the other guy. I understand he's a maniac, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you yourself get a free pass. This is not an either or at this point. You will each be determined based upon your own merits as individual things, as distinct things, as if the other did not exist at all. Meaning when I'm evaluating a candidate, you get my vote when you represent my interests, not because I'm terrified of somebody else. That is a fundamental level of where you need to be, and you need to be open and honest about it so they full well understand that, oh my God, all of these people has just said they're not voting for us and we're going to lose. Again, they've lost everything already. The legitimacy of the party, the argument that we're the adults in the room and we know how to win, has been dissolved magnificently. It's been shown for what it is, a farce. They had a quagmire of a situation that they were trying to deal with, so they called themselves centrists. It had nothing to do with big centrists. You had progressives on one side, you had plutocrats on the other, and you tried to mend those two ends. So you would take a bunch of money and you would talk a particular way that you would aim it at progressives to try to con them into voting for you. Your behavior in the office says more than what your words say. Just because you're talking like FDR doesn't necessarily mean you're FDR. Usually you guys are running it like Ronald Reagan, a liberal Republican, and a leftist clothing. It's time to grow up. It's time to leave. Vote for some. And look, if you see a Democrat that you believe represents your interests, have at it. If Tulsi Gabbard is running as a Democrat, Tulsi Gabbard would likely get my vote. So don't take this as this kind of blanket thing. But this is very specific. And there is power in being willing to say no. You just stand in your own saying no. If you're willing to give up liberty, what's the term? What's the quote? If you're willing to give up liberty for security, then you're not going to get both. There you go. That's what you got. You did not get either. You got kicked to the corner, cheated, and everything else. And you're still trying to reform the party. And you're still sheepdogging people into the party. And you're still willing to vote because you're terrified of the other. Your chance right now is to break that party. Anything that needs to take place in this country is going to take place from the left. And right now, we do not have a leftist vehicle in order to make that take place. And right now, and the Democratic Party are making the point that they're not the vehicle for that change. I don't know what that vehicle is, but at the very least, being complicit and allowing that party to do what that party does with your cosign is not the way to go about it. Any chance that you have that party to change has to be for that party to understand that they are no longer getting the complicit vote or the scared vote or the terrified vote. Do not let fear be the thing that governs whether or not they can con you into voting for them. Both parties do it. Don't get me wrong. They do it across the seas also. It's not just in the United States. I'm saying it needs to change. And I'm saying as leftists and progressives, being willing to say no is a big fucking deal. That's my point. Just say no. Any change, people are looking for things. They're like, oh, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And this is going long. I'm sorry. Whatever you do, it starts at that fundamental basis of no. We don't proceed from here. We don't proceed. We don't proceed at least with the things that the way that things are going. And I make this case or this argument. One or two things would happen. Either the party craters and burns and you're going to have to reform something else, or it changes. Both of those scenarios, or one of those scenarios, are necessary for your country to move into a better direction to deal with the actual issues that are addressing it. You don't get to that point by keeping status quo. Meaning status quo doesn't allow you to deal with the actual issues that are addressing your society and your world. And if this is just, I just want to change the tax code for healthcare or whatever else, those are marginal. And in no way pays attention to the actual global, catastrophic, environmental, and economic issues that are there, that are ever present, that are being completely ignored. If you're going to be the left, be the left. Be the left. Regain that obligation of being the conscience of this nation, whether it comes to war, whether it comes to economics. Regain it. Take that mantle back and break this party. It's time to grow up. Support people who represent your interests. If that's a green, that's a green. If that's an indie, that's an indie. If that's a conservative or if that's a Republican, have at it. Stop voting for people purely because you're scared of the other boogeyman. Ultimately, the country that you got is purely because you're terrified of the other guy, and they use fear as a controlling factor in every election, particularly from the left. And I'm talking purely from the left in this case. Grow up. Grow up. Get hipped to the game that they're being played on you, or that's being played on you. Just say no. Saying no is a powerful thing. I don't know where we go from here, but I would argue that it starts at a fundamental level of agreeing, no, we don't proceed. We don't proceed. At least not the way things are going. In the way that this party is configured. That's my argument. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. This has already gone immensely too long. But that's my argument. That's my case. If I don't understand the argument of supporting the party in a way where the party has no incentive or no impetus to change. And I think this argument of, hey, put them in office and then try to get them to change, it sounds fucking insane. Your leverage, your power comes from this idea that, oh my God, we can lose. Now, unless they understand that, unless they understand that we can lose, they have no impetus for change. There are pitchforks of their dollars, and right now dollars is controlling the debate. Whisper no. Whisper no. I will be loud, but you can whisper no. That is a goddamn revolutionary thing, and I would stand by that argument. Because I honestly don't understand the argument, the counter argument. I don't understand the counter argument. So I will leave it at that. Again, I'm sorry this ran long. I just wanted to make this point. Slightly arrogant, fair enough. But I think the argument is sound. Well, I think the strategy is sound. Alright guys, I'll leave it at that. If you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, and subscribe. And of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks guys.